Are you a financial advisor who would like to work with more doctor clients? Maybe you've tried in the past and gotten disappointing results. Maybe you've even concluded there's no way that this can happen. I'm Dr. Vicki Rackner. I'm a retired surgeon, and I've spent the past 15 years helping financial advisors accelerate their growth by attracting, engaging, and serving more doctor clients. I have for you today a 1-hour tutorial that will draw back the curtains and show you what's really needed in order to get more doctor clients. And here is the secret. You might be closer to success than you think. Doctors want and need your help. You just need to learn how to plug into them and get doctors' attention. So welcome to this training. If you look, there's a link below to download a PDF of the slides. I highly recommend that you do that because this is one jam-packed tutorial. I'll see you on the inside. I want to welcome you to this tutorial about why and how to attract, engage, and serve doctor clients in 2025. So if you have ever wondered, how do you acquire doctor clients without wasting your time, your money, or your efforts, even if you've had disappointing results in the past, then you are in the right place. You're going to learn how to avoid the common pitfalls so you can accelerate your practice growth by working with more doctor clients in 2025. I'm Dr. Vicki Rackner. I'm a retired surgeon, and for the past 15 years, I've helped financial advisors work with doctor clients, and I'm going to let Ed Slott introduce me.
I'm Ed Slott, and I'm here with Dr. Vicki Rackner, and she just gave the presentation of all presentations. If you're interested in building up your clientele as an advisor with doctors and helping them keep more of their hard-earned money, she can show you how to do it. She brought the house down here. That's all I have to tell you.
So what I believe is that there has never been a better time to work with doctor clients. Doctors are in financial pain. They need help, and they need it now. So here's what you are going to take away from this training. All right, I'd like to offer the compelling business argument for why work with doctors. Next, I'd like to show you 5 factors that impact your ability to attract, engage, and serve doctor clients in 2025. I deliver evidence-based marketing, which means that I'm going to be offering you ideas that are proven to work. And what impresses me as I look over my 15 years is how radically marketing to doctors has changed. Next, I'd like to offer the contrarian opinion that it's actually easier, not harder, to build a doctor-friendly practice. Now, the first few doctor clients are hard to get, and I am going to show you how to lower the barrier to entry. So now this becomes your competitive advantage. I'd like to share with you the top reasons that I observe about why financial advisors get stuck and how you can master the medical market. And last, I'd like to show you the 4 pillars that support success in the medical market. And I am here with the hopeful message that if you have marketed to doctors in the past and you haven't gotten the results that you want, your success could be much closer than you think, and you'll see why. Okay, here are some important things to note. First, I am going to be sharing ideas that you can take away today and apply yourself. However, please stay until the very end of the training because I'll close with a high ROI campaign. You can start to launch today. After the formal training is over, I will be sharing a way that you can work with me if you'd like to take the next step with me. But don't worry, you are going to be getting pure practical and actionable ideas that will help you achieve higher levels of performance. So this training is for you if you're a veteran in the medical market and you just want to kick it up to that next level of performance. You're here for the right reasons. If maybe you're working with a few doctor clients that you sort of acquired by accident and now you want to intentionally get more doctor clients. Maybe you're here because you want to explore whether the medical market might be a good fit for you. But you're definitely here if you want to get into the medical market and avoid the steep learning curve so you can take the most direct path to success. This training is not for you if you're looking for a get-rich-quick or a do-nothing campaign. A lot of people have the understandable attraction to, a program where just send me doctor leads. And believe me, if that worked, I would offer it to you. But there's no fast path or easy button. This is work. So if you're not willing to make an investment, this is probably not the right place for you. And if you're hoping that you're going to continue to do the same things and get different results, well, we all know that that doesn't happen. Now, this training is different because I am not a financial advisor. I have never sold any financial products or service. Instead, my value comes from being your ideal client. I am going to pull back the curtain and help you understand doctors, because this piece is the missing piece that stands in your way. Further, I am a student of doctors and their relationships with money, and I have interviewed hundreds of doctors and summarized trends that I've seen in these 3 books. So really, you are going to get the insider insights about how doctors think, how they make choices, and who inspires them to take action. In the spirit of full disclosure, I have helped professional financial advisors achieve remarkable results. I am going to be sharing some of those stories. I have also made lots and lots of mistakes myself. I've learned from my lessons, and quite honestly, I think that this is where my value comes from. I've been there, I've struggled, I've figured out ways to make things work. And what I have come to believe is that success is a result of simplification and systems. All of that said, I would love to be able to promise you results, but I can't predict your results because I don't really know you. All right, let's begin with the question, why work with doctors? Well, they say that the riches are in the niches, and this is a rich niche. Working with doctors is a simple application of Sutton's Law. When Willie Sutton was asked, why do you rob banks? He said, well, that's where the money is. And if you look at any niche, this is it. According to the U.S. Department of Labor Statistics, 10 out of the top 10 earners in the U.S. call themselves doctor. There are about 1 million practicing physicians and 200,000 practicing dentists, and we will never outsource our doctors. This is a career and an occupation that's here to stay. But this is the most important number. Even before the pandemic, half of doctors reported that they were behind in retirement planning. Only half are working with professional financial advisors. And those who are working with advisors are more likely to be on track for retirement. Plus, half of doctors are age 55 or older. So you're dealing with a lot of doctors who already have built assets. Further, doctors tend to be very loyal clients. So you know that with ultra high net worth clients, client acquisition is not as much of an issue as client retention. With doctors, it's inverse. The barrier to entry is higher, but once you acquire a doctor client, you are most likely going to have that doctor client for life. So what that means is that you don't have to replace losses. Every new doctor client is another new client that you are going to have. And think about what the lifetime value of your average client is. No, this loyalty translates to revenue. Further, doctors gossip kind of like teenage girls. So let me tell you how I got my financial advisor. One day I got a big check. I went to my buddy Bob and I said, Bob, I've got a big check. What do I do? He said, Vicki, you need a financial advisor. Why don't you go and see my guy? He does a good job for me. My wife runs a nonprofit. She said he does a good job for them. So great. Just based on my trust in Bob, I had sort of decided this was my guy. And when I first got on the phone with this financial advisor, I think he was surprised that he didn't have to sell me. All I wanted to know was where do I send the check and how do we get started? So, your end game is to become the go-to guy or go-to gal among targeted groups of doctors who share resources with each other, sort of like I spoke with Bob. Once you do that, you have the opportunity of achieving escape velocity. You know, when you launch a rocket ship into space, the fuel, the major power, is used overcoming the gravitational field of the Earth. Once that happens, then it's pretty much clear sailing. And this is completely possible. And let me tell you about a client of mine. I had a private coaching client, and he had some marketing campaigns that really worked well for them. And we were going to take that marketing campaign up to the next level. But one day we were on a coaching call and he said, Dr. Vicki, we are just going to have to pull the plug on this new marketing campaign. I am getting so many new doctor clients approaching me. I don't even know how I'm going to onboard them all, let alone fill the pipeline with even more. Well, that's a great problem to have, right? What had happened was that he became well known among three different circles of doctors: urologists, surgeons, and radiologists. And anytime a new doctor came into those circles, which generally happens around July 1st, because medical school starts on July 1st, so everyone advances a level. So, you know, the fellowship trained doctors were now accepting their new jobs. And every time they entered those circles, their colleagues said, go and see this guy. He does a great job. So what we decided to do was recruit a junior financial advisor so that he became the rainmaker for both of them. Now, the doctor initiative has 3 financial advisors. This is the ultimate beauty and power of working with doctors. It's the propensity of doctors to share great resources, which gives you a way of building your practice. All right, I'd like to next talk about 5 trends impacting doctors in 2025 and your ability to engage them. And of course, the headliner is the COVID pandemic. I was taking my dog for a walk. A huge windstorm had blown through the night before, and it disconnected a dock from its mooring. There was somebody from the city right there, and I said, how were you going to get that dock reconnected? He said, we have no idea. We've never done this before. And I thought, this is a perfect metaphor for the COVID pandemic. The pandemic ripped doctors from their financial mooring. All right, so think back to the first part of the pandemic. Do you remember when we were concerned we might not have enough ventilators for all of the COVID patients? Well, every time I operated on a patient, she was on a ventilator. And across the country, hospitals and clinics and individual practices said, we are going to cancel our elective cases so that all of our ventilators can go for the COVID patients. Well, those elective cases are the engines that drive profitability of individual practices and hospitals. And by April 2020, the Mayo Clinic, the single largest employer in the state of Minnesota, was projecting a $3 billion shortfall because of these postponed elective cases. So they, like so many other institutions, decided to cut back on their staffing. Doctors across the country were asked to take pay cuts. Many institutions didn't make matching contributions to the retirement funds. Doctors who were in private practice, let's say an orthopedic surgeon, you might have had a parent or a grandparent whose hip replacement got deferred. Well, that orthopedic surgeon saw their income decrease by 80, 90% overnight. Now, remember, before the pandemic, half of doctors were behind in retirement planning. They were projecting their future earning years to help them get caught up, and now they were getting further and further behind. So I'm a fellow of the American College of Surgeons, and I was just overwhelmed when I got invited to this webinar hosted by the American College of Surgeons, Economic Survival Strategies in the COVID World. This was basic stuff. This was, here's how you do a budget. Here is how you decide how to prune your budget. Here are some things that you should consider before filing for bankruptcy. I invite you to go to my Engaging Doctors website and sign up to get on my list, because when I hear about things like this, I will invite financial advisors to sort of eavesdrop on these kinds of events. And the financial advisors who were there said, I don't know about some of that information that was disseminated to the 10,000 general surgeons who were there on the line. And I said, exactly, this is why doctors need you. So right now, doctors are in the midst of this great COVID catch-up. Another consequence of the pandemic is that you've probably had a telehealth visit with your doctor. Now, this technology has been around for forever, but quite honestly, the reason that you didn't have a telehealth visit pre-COVID was that insurance companies hadn't figured out how doctors would get compensated for these visits. Well, virtually overnight, this problem was solved. So we physicians had the experience that we could actually build meaningful relationships virtually. That also means that they understood that they could build virtual relationships with financial advisors. So pre-COVID, you might have thought that your prospecting area was, say within a mile, an hour drive within your office. But now you could work with any doctor in the United States. I'm currently working with financial advisors who have never been in the same room as their doctor clients. So there are many more opportunities for you. Further, doctors are very social creatures. I mean, I wish you could be a fly on the wall of the doctor's dining room or surgeon's lounge. Doctors get together and they network. Well, when we were seeing patients from our home, we weren't collaborating in that place. So many doctors are turning to social platforms. And right now, believe it or not, the number one platform for doctors is Facebook. And here's why. Facebook has the ability to create true private groups. So if I wanted to join a Facebook group about, passive revenue through real estate investment, they would ask me, what year did you graduate from medical school? And show me a picture so that I can confirm that you are really who you say you are. So doctors feel like they can have conversations without their patients eavesdropping on them. Now, I want to let you know that there are many doctors on LinkedIn. However, there is a separate entity called Doximity. This is like the LinkedIn for doctors. 80% of doctors are registered on Doximity. And again, there are these strict requirements before you can actually hop on that platform. So What this means is you've got new fishing holes, right? You've got new ways of interacting with doctors. So if your doctors are active on Facebook, for example, you can figure out how to be on Facebook. And I help financial advisors figure out how to do that. The third trend is very sobering. We are seeing an epidemic of doctor burnout. Now, pre-COVID, the incidence of burnout was about 43%. 43% of doctors said, I've been burned out this year. Every year, Medscape does a survey of burnout and depression and doctor suicide. You can sign up for a free Medscape account and get access to these wonderful reports. I highly recommend that you do that. Well, at the height, as much as 60 or 70% of doctors said that they were burned out. These are doctors who did not want to be at work. They didn't want to see patients. They felt like they were painted in a corner and they could not figure out how to get out. Well, fortunately now, the burnout incidence is finally coming down. And when doctors were asked, what do you need to turn around burnout? The number one answer was increased compensation. But think about this. You're burned out. Increased compensation means you've got to see more patients because you're trading your time for money. And how am I going to see more patients when I'm already burned out? What doctors really want is to put more money in their pockets and make their money grow. And this is something that you can do. So you are the solution to doctors' number one problem. Next, doctors are getting killed in taxes. So for the first time, Medscape actually surveyed doctors' tax-related behavior. They asked the question, are you paying too much? And 75% of doctors said, yes, I am paying too much in taxes. There was another survey done in this time interval where half of Americans said, I'm paying too much in taxes. So this is another standout feature. Now, this just blew me away. Almost half of doctors are preparing their own taxes, and they do not distinguish between strategic tax planning and tax preparation. So a huge way that you can make an impact with doctors is show them how they can legally and ethically lower their tax bills. If you do not personally do this, I recommend that you build a relationship with somebody who does. This could be the true solution for many boomer physicians who are wondering, am I going to be able to retire before age 70? All right, the fifth trend is what I call the era of healthcare corporatization. So we have seen consolidation in healthcare for the past 30 years, dating back to managed care, which was neither managed nor care. So clinics purchased doctor practices, bigger clinics versus ate up smaller clinics. Hospitals ate up these clinics. But for the first time, we are seeing private equity gobble up clinics. Now, the thing that distinguishes private equity from this consolidation trend is that the leadership in private equity may never have any experience in healthcare. Private equity is interested in short-term profitability. And many of the things that you must do for long-term strategic growth is to invest in the long term. So in 2025, private equity owns more practices than hospitals do. And doctors who are working under the leadership of private equity hate it. They hate the penny pinching, the focus on, short-term goals. And, a lot of doctors feel like they don't have any choice I spoke with a plastic surgeon who, in essence, reported the hostile takeover of her practice and her surgery center. So again, doctors are feeling disempowered. They feel like they don't have any choice. And so the number one question that I am hearing from doctors is, look, how can I move up retirement? I just want out. How do I get out? So doctors need you now. If they're interested in getting out of burnout or moving up retirement, they need your help and financial leadership. So you'd think it would just be a slam dunk getting more doctor clients. But every day I get calls from financial advisors saying, I just don't get it. I'm taking marketing campaigns that work so well with business owners. Why am I hearing crickets when I launch these with doctors? And every time I hear that, I'm reminded of a scene from my son's toddler years. He had this love affair with trucks. And so in the evenings when we went out for walks, I mean, the truth is, if we came across a piece of construction equipment, we would play on it. Well, one day we came across this huge construction site, and my son pointed his chubby little toddler finger in the direction of the dirt pile, and he said, touch trucks. I said, sweetie, that would be great. But look, there's a fence all around the construction site. And do you see the sign on that locked gate? It says, do not enter. And my son thought for a toddler moment, and he said, take down sign. Now, doesn't this kind of remind you of trying to market to doctors? You can see them, you can touch them, they might be your neighbors, you might play golf with them. It could be that there's a clinic right down the street, but it feels like they are locked away, like you can't get their attention and really engage them. And in essence, what I do is I take down this do not enter sign. I give you the proverbial hard hat so you can walk on the sort of medical site like an insider so that you really can engage these doctors. But I have to say that I have felt your pain if you're struggling working with doctors. So let me briefly tell you my story. I was in a graduate program when one day I fainted on my way to the bathroom. I was bleeding internally, and by the time the surgeons got into my belly, about half of my blood volume was in my pelvis. So when I said goodbye to my then fiance, I really thought that this was the final goodbye. Well, I was so grateful to wake up that I just knew I was going to become a doctor and save other people's lives like my own had been saved. I think my fiance thought, well, once she gets off the morphine, she'll start to think more rationally. But this is what I did. I ultimately became a surgeon and went into private practice in Seattle. I quickly became a breast surgeon, and I loved, loved, loved this work. I remember driving to the hospital thinking, I love this so much. I would do this for free. And believe me, there were some times in my practice when I really was doing that. So I was in a situation where I needed to step into the family caregiver role. So I took a leave of absence to do that. And I remember folding a load of laundry, and I got a call from a lawyer asking me, hey, would you be willing to take a look at a medical malpractice case? And I thought, anything but another load of laundry. So I reviewed one case and then another and then another. You always hate getting x-rays like this where you find a surgical instrument in the patient's pelvis. But anyway, it gave me a real front row seat to how and why care went off track. So after about a year, my caregiving came to an end, and I thought, well, what next? I could certainly have gone back to operating, but I thought, how many people have been in a life-threatening situation and have saved patients' lives? How many have been family caregivers? How many have seen where care went off track and have ideas about how to keep care go on track? So I had a brilliant idea. How about if I launch a consulting company helping doctors and patients collaborate more effectively to get better medical care at a lower cost. So I launched it. And I thought, this is brilliant. I am going to be doing so well. But I struggled and struggled and struggled. I invested in coaches and courses and mentors. I once calculated that I've invested more in my sales and marketing training than I literally did in medical school. Well, I remember going over to speak in Europe, and I had this huge aha moment. When I went to plug in my laptop, I saw you can't do this directly because Europe is wired differently than the US. In order to make this connection, you need an adapter. And I thought, this is it. I, as a doctor, am wired differently than these business-minded people I'm hoping to write me checks. I need to create this adapter so I can plug into my buyers. And I did this and I got much different results. So I've had the privilege of delivering keynote addresses at national meetings. I've been interviewed on NPR. I've written any number of books. And I don't say that to impress you, but rather to impress upon you that my value was exactly the same before and after I created this adapter. But the understanding about how and why I needed to speak differently transformed my results. So remember when I said you might be closer to success than you think? It may well be that all you need is this adapter. So then 2008 rolls around and my clients, my doctor clients started telling me about their financial concerns. Like I remember one doctor telling me, yep, I'm just dipping into my retirement account to fund my payroll because, this is going to turn around real quickly. I also, I talked with doctors who said, I just got divorced. Am I going to have to file for bankruptcy? And for whatever reason, this just kind of caught my attention. And so I had a hobby listening to doctors' money stories. And after you've listened to enough of them, you start seeing trends emerge. I got really curious, like, what is the difference between a thriving doctor and a struggling doctor? Well, it's that thriving doctors made fewer mistakes. So my value is offering the bridge between suits, doctors like myself, natives in the land of medicine, and suits, people like you, natives to the world of business. I originally created this bridge so that I myself could achieve better business results. I was thinking, well, look, one of doctors' huge problems is this dysfunctional relationship with money. And if doctors are truly going to transform their lives, their careers, they needed to get on solid financial foundation. And I thought, if I want to make a big impact, how about if I just groom a community of financial advisors who truly understood the financial needs of doctors? This would be a win all around. So this is what I have been doing. So this bridge that I've built goes both ways. So in my Engaging Doctors brand, I help financial advisors like you build business relationships with doctors. And there have been thousands of doctors who are in a financially secure situation because of the financial advisors who are members of the community. I have another brand, though, called Thriving Doctors, where I help doctors create a life of true wealth by using their heart of service and growing their brain for business. So I don't offer financial advice, but what I do is I help doctors think with the mind of an entrepreneur. I mention this to you for a simple reason. I develop content for this brand. So I've got doctor to doctor information that I distribute that doctors love. Well, if I'm going to help financial advisors, doesn't it make sense that I give them the marketing content that they can use for tools? So financial advisors have access to all of the content that I have developed for doctors. Financial advisors can even make the investment to create custom versions of these books. So their name goes right below mine on the cover. And this helps with expert positioning. Okay, let me show you another example about what happens when you don't have an adapter. So I love watching Shark Tank. As far as I'm concerned, this is part of my ongoing business education. So there was an episode in which the doctor entered the Shark Tank to get funding for his company, Syndaver. He sold synthetic cadavers. This is a billion-dollar industry. He'd had millions of dollars in sales. The sharks were all engaged. And I thought, this guy is going to get a 5-shark deal. But then the questions started, tell us about your revenue, tell us about your profitability. And there on national TV, this uncoached doctor said, well, I suppose I could make lots of money if I wanted to, but money's really not that important to me. I'm here to make a difference. With that, 4 sharks were out. He got a deal with Robert Herjavec that fell apart in a couple of weeks. And you've got to ask the question, what went wrong? This was clearly a great business opportunity. The problem was that the doctors did not understand what the sharks needed to hear in order to say, yes, I wish I could have gotten a chance to coach him before he went on national TV. Well, this sounds kind of silly, but imagine that there's another reality show called Surgeon's Lounge. You, as a financial advisor, walk into a room, there are 5 surgeons sitting in plush leather chairs. You want to do a deal with as many of them as possible. Most financial advisors make the exact mistake that the doctor made when he entered the Shark Tank. He did not understand what the sharks needed to hear in order to say yes. So too, most financial advisors do not know how to talk with doctors about money. But the doctor on the Shark Tank gave a clue. For doctors, it's not about the money. The incoming president of the American College of Surgeons, in his convocation address, he said, I get paid in hugs. How do you build a relationship with somebody who thinks like that? Well, for doctors, it's about service. And you can help doctors understand that the bigger their wealth, the bigger the service, the bigger legacy that they lead. And once you reframe these conversations, you find that you get many, many more doctors engaged. So, my experience tells me that building business relationships with doctors follows neither a B2B nor a B2C model. It's its own deal. I call it B2D, conducting business with doctors. So I will tell you that there are lots of opportunities in the medical market. There are certainly suits in healthcare. You've got C-suite executives of medical organizations. You've got the pharmaceutical industry. You've got the insurance industry. So if you want to work with suits and avoid this complexity, just take what you're doing with your business owners and deploy it, in that portion of the medical market. And you are missing an important business opportunity if you decide to do that. So I got a call from a financial advisor, and she said, I'm really trying to decide where to focus. I work with a neurosurgeon, but I've also got an in with the hospital CEO. Should I focus on CEOs or should I focus on the neurosurgeons? I said, well, let's run the numbers. We looked up the salary of the hospital CEO was $750,000. That hospital employed 13 neurosurgeons with an average salary of $640,000 and a range of $480 to $800. Further, the hospital employed 700 physicians. Now, we know that doctors network together and they share information with each other. So she said, this is a no-brainer. Surgeons. So you want to choose what's right for you. I have this prescription for health. Be who you are, know what you know, and do what you need to do. So you need to decide what the right fit is for you. Maybe you decide to work with hospital CEOs and also neurosurgeons. You can certainly do that. Okay, now here is the paradoxical idea that I had told you. It's actually easier, not harder, to grow a doctor practice. And let me show you why I say that. You already know from your experience that the way you do life is the way you do money, and the way you do money is the way you do life. So there are certain habits that make doctors good doctors, that make it easier for you to build a doctor practice. So what you want to do is sort of medical martial arts. You want to go with the momentum of doctors' natural behavior to help you grow your practice. So here is the first big idea. Doctors network together. When I operated, on a patient, she had a primary care doctor, maybe a cardiologist, maybe an orthopedic surgeon, maybe a rheumatologist. So I was connected with these doctors. I knew whom I could trust. And when you talk about money, one doctor could have talked to another. Bob, the guy I asked, was not a surgeon, but he was in my network. So now, if you do a great job, doctors have a natural network for distributing information about you. But here is a fundamental difference between a suit, a business-minded person like you, and a white coat, a practicing clinician like me. When we white coats find a good idea, the very first thing we want to do is share it with other people. White suits, on the other hand, tend to be more protective. So, I will regularly get calls from financial advisors who have gone through my, signature Cracking the Physician Code course. And they will say things like, I'm so grateful, for your course. My business tripled this year, and I can draw a direct line between this idea that you shared with me and the results I got. And inevitably, I will say, congratulations, I am delighted. But listen, I am here on a mission. I want to impact the lives of more doctors. In 2025, I would love to help 10,000 doctors thrive. So please, if you know any financial advisors interested in working with doctors, please share these resources. And I have heard these identical words more than once. Why would I do that? You're my secret sauce. Why would I give away my competitive advantage? So as you think about sharing resources, your natural tendency is just to assume that doctors think like that too, but they don't. This is the magic of the medical market. So one day I took a financial advisor. I was able to open the door and get him a speaking engagement in front of a group of residents. And I always recommend that when you speak to doctors, get a doctor to introduce you. This means that you're under a doctor's veil of credibility. But I knew that this financial advisor was a family friend with the retired chief of surgery from this organization. I said, hey, how about if you reach out and invite Dr. Ryan to introduce you? He did that. Dr. Ryan was there at 7 a.m. to make the introduction. My client absolutely, blew the house down. And after the presentation, he and Dr. Ryan and I went to the cafeteria, grabbed coffee just to get caught up. And in the middle of our conversation, Dr. Ryan reaches below the table, pulls out his briefcase, pulls his laptop out of his briefcase, and starts typing. And my client and I were sort of looking at each other like, that's kind of rude. Well, after some typing, Dr. Ryan shared, I am writing all of the program directors I know and telling them that they must invite you to come in and give this presentation. Here's the deal. We did not ask Dr. Ryan to do this. Dr. Ryan genuinely cares about other doctors, and he saw something that was great. He wanted to share this resource. Please remember this. This is how doctors behave. If you are able to reduce a doctor's tax bill by $100,000, I promise you they're in the doctor's dining room or surgeon's lounge or Doximity sharing this information about you. Unfortunately, if a financial advisor does a bad job, that information gets distributed quickly. So maintaining your integrity, maintaining your reputation is very important, because once you've broken trust, it is really hard to recover from that. So you can achieve this escape velocity, and that is your goal. All right, how do you get there? Well, let me share 4 pillars for success in the medical market. And this really means shifting your perspective. So as you look at this drawing, what do you see here? Do you see a younger woman looking off to the left, or do you see an elderly woman looking down? And to help you see both pictures, I've gotten some anatomic landmarks so like you can see both. So I'm going to shift your perspective with these columns. All right. The first is that you want to align your actions with the natural behavior of doctors, which means that you've got to learn the natural behaviors of doctors. I will tell you that doctors behave like tropical fish. They tend to congregate together and swim together under the direction of the leader. And doctors do this for the same reason fish do. It offers protection against predators. Now, you are not the only people who understand that this is where the money is. So many doctors, myself included, have been the victim of financial predators. So for doctors to protect themselves, they tend to see the world in terms of insiders and outsiders. You are one of us, you are trusted, or you are the other. So what you want to do is quickly build trust among just like one doctor. The rate at which your practice grows is the rate at which you build trust. So your challenge is to prove yourself with the doctor. Prove yourself as somebody who offers trustworthy information that truly helps other doctors. Trust that you have a doctor's best interest at heart. And by the way, very few doctors understand what the word fiduciary means, and they don't want to look stupid. They don't want to ask you, what does that word mean? So what you can do is say, doctor, you put your patient's needs before your own. So too, I put my client's needs before my own. So if you want to conduct business with doctors, conduct yourself as one. Learn the secret handshakes. Learn how doctors behave. And here is the prime example. In the world of medicine, we defer to the doctor title. So let's say my best friend is giving a talk at a medical meeting and I've got a question. I'd go up to the mic and I would not say, Doreen, great presentation, but I've got a question about this data on slide 23. I would go up to the microphone and I would say, Dr. Parkhurst, great presentation. I've got a question about the research on page 23. In the world of business, we default to the first name. But if you do that with a doctor prospect, you have just lost the sale at hello. The doctor is going to be polite, they're going to be gracious, and you might wonder, the doctor seems so interested, why did they ghost me? Well, you've just outed yourself as an outsider. So learning these secret handshakes, conducting yourself like doctors is critical. Second, you want to build a well-oiled medical marketing machine. So This course, this Cracking the Physician Code Bootcamp, is my signature course. I've been delivering it for 15 years, and I'm always upgrading it and updating it. This is like medical marketing school. So in it, I talk about evidence-based marketing, marketing that is proven to work. So what do you need? You need a source of leads, you need a way of beginning a conversation, and you need a way of inspiring prospects to take action. And you want to design this at the very beginning. I went to my top financial advisors and I said, look, let's take a look at your top 10 doctor clients, and then let's turn back the hands of time. How many contacts did you have with these doctors before they actually became your client? And this is the data that I collected. So on average, most financial advisors required between 8 and 10 contacts with doctors before they said yes to, working together. There were a few on the other end, and I'm an example of that. I had 0 contacts with my financial advisor before I chose them. Well, it turns out that there are 3 buckets of leads. There's family, friends, and fans, people who already know, like, and trust you. And if you know that person, if that person trusts you, there are doctors who trust them. And so, you're potentially 1 email away from getting a new doctor client. The other 2 buckets of leads are power partners, centers of influence. These are people who have lists of doctors. And, if the power partner sends out an email, the doctors will open it. In general, that takes a little longer to build trust, and there's a specific way of doing it. But, you could have a doctor client from a new relationship with a power partner in maybe 6 months. Then there's the bucket of doctor information seekers. This is the cold traffic. So when people think about lead generation, this is the bucket that they talk about. But this is actually the hardest bucket because now you've got to build trust de novo. And so it could be, 12 months before you have built enough trust for a doctor to set up an appointment to speak with you. So if you know that this is the data, doesn't it make sense to set a digital nurture funnel up from the very beginning? And then your goal is just to build your doctor list and deliver an ongoing stream of value. Third, give great gifts that doctors love. It is very difficult to get a doctor's attention. Doctors know that they're behind in retirement planning, but those numbers stay the same year after year, which means that the awareness of the problem does not inspire doctors to take action. Doctors are very good at ignoring messages that they want to ignore. So here is a way of breaking through. It's by giving great gifts. So Robert Cialdini, the author of the book Influence, which I highly recommend, did an experiment to see if there were ways that he could increase the tips of waitstaff at restaurants. So he did an experiment that had 3 arms. So they knew the average amount of tips that waiters got or waitstaff got. Then they delivered 1 mint with the check. That increased tips by 3%. In the second arm, they delivered 2 mints with the check. That increased the tips, you might imagine, maybe 6%, because if 1 increased the tips by 3%, okay, that increased tips by 13%. Then in the third arm, the waitstaff delivered 1 mint, went away, and then came back around and said, for you nice people, here's an extra mint. That increased tips by 21%. So gift giving is a highly effective way of building relationship. It's the gracious way to do it. And I highly recommend that you think about approaching a doctor the same way you would go to a dinner party. You wouldn't go empty-handed, right? You would bring something that the host or hostess would appreciate. So have a whole bunch of hostess gifts. These hostess gifts are like the yummy treats that will help a puppy understand that when you issue the command come, you want the puppy to come to you. If you put the puppy on a sit stay, issue the command come, the puppy doesn't know what you want. So your tendency is to decrease the distance to the puppy by approaching them. Then they think it's a chase game and they're off. The same thing is true with doctors. You want to have these yummy treats, these hostess gifts, and be the first to give a gift. So this book, The 9 Money Mistakes Doctors, this is a book doctors absolutely love. So as I mentioned, financial advisors can purchase a license for unrestricted distribution of this book, but they can also make a higher level of investment to create a custom book. So one of my financial advisors decided to do this. Then he sent me a screenshot of a text that the doctor had sent him. The doctor was reading this book on vacation. So test your yummy treats. Make sure that they really work. One of the biggest mistakes I see financial advisors make is give information they think that doctors should want instead of testing it and giving them information proven to engage doctors. So these 3 books, these are proven. All right. 4th, speak to persuade by mastering $1 million messaging. Now, the most influential person in a doctor's life is another doctor. So my first tip for you is to not make yourself the hero of your stories. It's to make doctors the hero of your stories. So tell stories about doctors in their transformation. Think about getting an advisory board on your website. Have a doctor introduce you, as I said before. But here is the thing that's really going to transform your business. Groom doctors how to talk about you and the transformations that you provide in the doctor's dining room or surgeon's lounge. Doctors want to share great information, right? So doctors are naturally going to want to share information, except that you want to do their thinking for them. You want to coach them about, what to say and what kinds of triggers to say it in. So your doctors can be your evangelists. They can open up the red velvet rope and make your services more accessible. So here is another place where $1 million messaging really matters. It's to recognize basic human behavior. Doctors know that they've got to make an investment to turn around their financial futures, right? So there's a desire for something new, but we have an innate programmed desire for safety. Every doctor with whom you speak is going to have a little voice in their head that says, I don't know, that might not be safe. Let's just deal with things as they are now. So, it's often uncomfortable to address objections, but articulating this is kind of like shining a light under the bed. So, you might enjoy curling, watching curling. The goal is to get a 40-pound hunk of granite to a specific portion of the ice. And there are those guys with the brooms, and what they're doing is they're brushing to decrease the resistance so that that granite will wind up where they want it to be. Your words are important. Your words can shine a light under the bed to, address the objections that might be keeping doctors stuck. So the word abracadabra comes from the Aramaic language, meaning what I speak, I create. Your words are powerful. So make an investment to learn how to use your words more effectively. Okay, I promised you a high ROI campaign, and here it is. And let me just tell you the story behind it. I got a call from a mortgage broker. He sold doctor loans. These are great mortgages, right? And he couldn't get doctors to listen. And he told me all of the things that he had tried unsuccessfully. And I just asked him, well, have you ever had, medical situation for yourself or a family member? He said, oh my God, when my daughter was in high school, she was T-boned by a drunk driver. When the medics came to the scene, she was unresponsive. The doctors told us she might not make it through the night. And when she made it through the night, the doctor said she may never wake up. And when she woke up, the doctor said she may never speak again. And when she started speaking, they said she may never walk again. Well, she is about to graduate from college. I said, perfect. Here is what you do. Make a list of every single doctor, nurse, physical therapist, occupational therapist who treated your doctor. Wait until graduation. Get a picture of her in a cap and gown. Make 1 million copies of that. And then send a note to every single person on that list. Say something like, you're not going to believe this, but my daughter just graduated from college. If it had not been for your care, we probably wouldn't be here. So I cannot thank you enough. Now look, I don't save lives, but what I do is I help doctors get great mortgages. If you know any doctor who's interested in buying a house, have them contact me because I want to give back to the medical community and I am going to treat them with all of the care and attention that you help us get to this day. And then, if you want, you can include a gift, send them a copy of the book. This is the campaign that worked. And so this is what I recommend that you start with. Start with a doctor who has made a difference in your life. Make a list of them. Send the doctor a note saying, here's how you made a difference to me. And I am so grateful. And listen, I don't save lives, but what I do is I help doctors optimize their financial health. Should you know any doctor who wants or needs some free resources, have them contact me because I've got them. And again, maybe you give away a copy of a book. Maybe you give away 5 copies of the book and you invite the doctor to share it with others. So here are some results. One of my financial advisors on a live coaching call just shared these numbers like a couple of weeks ago, and I was blown away. So he made a list of 23 new doctors that he wanted to get to know. He did some research on the doctors, and he wrapped up this book, hired an Uber driver to deliver the book to the doctor's office. The Uber driver got the name of the receptionist, and the Uber driver asked the receptionist to put the gift on the doctor's desk. Okay, a couple of days later, he called the receptionist, said, I'd like to speak with the doctor. Who are you? Well, I'm the guy who delivered that gift to the doctor that you got a couple of days ago. This guy got 18 appointments from this one campaign, a 78% conversion. Like, what kind of campaign do you get a 78% conversion? Now, one thing that I want to talk with you about is that one of the difference between suits and white coats is with suits, there's a sense of reciprocity, right? Like I do business with you, you do business with me. In the field of healthcare, it's a little different. The doctor-patient relationship is sort of sacred. And so once a doctor has a patient, they're not supposed to be friends. They're not supposed to be romantically involved. There have been doctors who have lost licenses by doing that. So you don't want to pitch the doctor. You want to say, hey, you helped me so much. I want to help you build wealth. Instead, you say, if you know any colleagues who would like this. And if a doctor raises their hand and says, well, can you help me? Of course you can help them. But by not pitching them, you demonstrate cultural competency. All right. So we started out this conversation with the question, why work with doctors? I hope that you're asking a different question now. Why wouldn't I work with doctors? This is the right place and the right time to mine the treasures in the medical market. And I'm hoping that you're saying, yes, I'm in. Because as I said, I have this commitment to serving 10,000 doctor clients in 2025. I know that if you focus on the medical market, you'll get, I don't know, 12, 20, 50 doctor clients. And then I'm well on my way to my goal. The logical question when you set a goal is to ask, how do I do it? But in a great book, Dan Sullivan offers the idea. The more strategic question is to ask who, not how. I am happy to be your who. Go to my Engaging Doctors site, get on the list so you get regular tips. However, if you are interested in sort of taking that next step, I can also be the person who can offer you an unfair advantage. So I have put together a program to help financial advisors take quantum leaps, and I'd like to share that with you now. If you are not interested in a pitch, I just want to thank you from my heart for being here and for your interest in working with doctor clients. Please know that by the end of the day, you will get a replay link of this presentation along with a PDF of the slides and a link if you want to get on my calendar and talk about whether the medical market is a good fit for you. However, if you're interested in learning more, I would like to share information about this package I have put together called the Get More Doctor Clients program. This is intended to be a soup to nuts package that delivers everything that you need in order to be successful. So the core offering is this Cracking the Physician Code course, this signature course that is kind of like medical marketing school. So here are the modules. In the first module, you will learn the 10 laws of physician engagement. Remember I talked about cultural competency, like how do doctors think, how do doctors act? This lays it out. And it's kind of like the laws of gravity. If you understand how gravity works, you can predict outcomes. So too, if you understand how doctors work, you can predict outcomes too. Oftentimes when financial advisors get stuck, we can go to these 10 laws of physician engagement and see where there's a lack of alignment. And then once we make the alignment, they get much better results. Then we talk about this B to D blueprint step by step. You learn how to strategically choose your best fit tribes of doctors. You are most successful not when you try to be all things to all doctors, but you focus on targeted groups of doctors defined in a very specific way. Next, you want to gather the intelligence to be at the right place and the right time with the right marketing message. Well, should you invest in Facebook ads? I don't know. Are your doctors on Facebook? What kinds of concerns does your tribe have? And there is a way of getting this kind of intelligence. Next, you groom for engagement. So doctors know that you are the trusted experts. Look, doctors want to work with financial advisors who work with doctors like them every single day. So when a doctor arrives on your website, do they know that they are in the right place? Next, you take away proven ways to generate leads and have more conversation and accelerate trust building. You learn how to inspire doctors to say yes to you. You learn how to cultivate this culture of introductions to nurture doctor evangelists. And then in the last module, we reverse engineer your success. And we talk about what kinds of habits support accelerated growth. Now, Most financial advisors say this is like drinking from the fire hose. There's lots of content. You have access to this content for life. But, one of the big questions is how do I apply this information in my practice? What are my best tribes? What kind of lead generation system would work best for me? So, part of this package is access to live coaching calls on the first and third Thursdays of each month. We will get together. You can bring any question that you have. I'd be happy to review your website or talk about an upcoming opportunity or maybe do a debrief on a campaign that you just had. So I'm happy to share my information, but what's wonderful about this group is often the best information doesn't come from me. It comes from the other amazing financial advisors who are in the group. So this is an amazing community. Third, you get these yummy treats. You get the proven gifts that attract doctors' attention. So, for example, I've got this cartoon, Navigating to Wealth. You can use this cartoon when you sit down with a doctor. You can give them a red pen and say, Doctor, why don't you circle the three biggest icebergs, the three biggest concerns that you face as you think about building a life of wealth? You've got access to my books. I've written a book for family caregivers. So if you talk about long-term care, this is a great, yummy treat to lead with. Then you get training about how to build these digital sales funnels so you get the multiple contacts that you need. So you've got instructions about how to get it set up. You've even got email swipe files based on the 9 Money Mistakes book. Further, you get 12 marketing campaigns of the month. So this is a bold move that you can do once a month to help you attract, engage, and serve more doctor clients. So you're constantly adding tools to your marketing toolbox. So some examples are how to engage doctors at medical meetings, how to jump on July opportunities. As I mentioned, there are new doctors in your town as of July 1st. This is a great opportunity because what's the one time in a doctor's career when they actually have time to meet with you? It's when they're just starting. They've got an empty schedule that they need to fill. So they're going around talking with other people, trying to figure out how to get people in. Imagine that you took a doctor out to coffee or breakfast or lunch and said, Doctor, welcome to town. Hey, I talk to people all the time. Could you share with me who your ideal patient is? Because maybe I can help refer some of these people to you. And then, of course, if you do something nice for a doctor like that, of course, they're going to ask you, well, what is it that you do again? So, you can build relationships by talking about lawsuits, about holiday gift giving. Next, yummy element is that you get scripts for success. Like there are certain situations that you will face. A doctor ghosts you. You can't get past the gatekeeper. What do you say and what do you do? So these are circumstance specific solutions. Okay, do these ideas really work? Well, let me just share with you what one of my clients said.
So we've been working with Dr. Vicky for several months now, and it's been an incredible experience. In fact, we have grown so much. We're in the middle of a growth spurt right now. I think that we're going to probably triple our revenue this year. And I am so thankful and appreciative of the mentorship and the coaching that has come from Dr. Vicky, not only helping us to target physicians better, but also how to speak to physicians. It helps in our closing process. It actually helps in every aspect of what we're doing right now, from bringing in our clients to taking them through the whole sales process and closing them, and even dealing with the physicians as clients. I understand their needs a lot better. I understand their mentality a lot better, the psychology behind it, the emotional part of it. She's just so valuable. I can't even put a dollar amount to it. So Dr. Vicky, we appreciate you on a personal level and a business level. And I look forward to to the future, continuing to work with you. Thank you so much for all you do. I highly recommend you. Highly, highly recommend you. Thank you so much.
All right. I'm just smiling really big because I have been their coach for, this is the 5th year now. And she mentioned tripling her business. They're on track to do that again this year. So I'm just so delighted for them. Okay. So what is the investment for this program? Let me ask you a couple of questions. What is the lifetime value of a single physician client? Everyone's got a different business model, but you probably have a sense of what this is. And if you don't, I really encourage you to sit down and make a calculation. Now, what is the value of being perceived as a physician's partner? Because remember, when you're distributing my intellectual property, now you are operating under my veil of credibility. What's the value of marketing materials that physicians actually want? Have you had that frustration of, maybe writing a book that just doesn't click, or, just doing something that doctors seem not to want? What's the value of not stumbling at the starting gate by saying not using the doctor title, or at the finishing line when a doctor ghosts you? You thought that you were just on the verge of the doctor saying yes, and it doesn't happen. So basically, I have put together the things that you need to be successful. It's kind of like a Jiffy cake mix. You've got everything there. All right. I will tell you that you can go to the Engaging Doctor site and purchase all elements of this package. This, if you add it up, it's about a $20,000 investment. But because I'm really committed to helping doctors, I am not going to ask you to invest $20,000 or $15,000 or $10,000 or even $7,000. You can get access to all of this starting today for 12 monthly payments of $347. If you make an upfront payment, you get a discount. So you can access all of this for $39.97. Further, when I got started, there were really slick salespeople, and I bought products and services that just didn't deliver, and it always got me really angry. My reputation is my number one asset. And so with all of my products, you get a 1-year guarantee. So start using the program. And if after a year you have not gotten the results that you want, you get your money back, no questions asked. The only thing I ask is that you show me proof that you've actually tried to put these ideas into action. So you have zero risk by making this investment. Plus, I'd like to offer you some rewards for taking fast action, because we're at a time of the year where there are these new opportunities in your community, and I want to help you take advantage of them. So here are some bonuses. The first bonus is access to my training about how to engage doctors with webinars. So how do you get doctors to sign up and show up and step up? Bonus number 2, you get a list of my top secret, most profitable niches. These are generally reserved for my private coaching clients who invest, $25,000 to work one-on-one with me for 6 months. Bonus number 3, I have my new book that is about to come out, How Doctors Build True Wealth. Comes with a book and a workbook. And this is the third bonus. So that's $5,500 in value, all as my gifts to you. So let me ask you, what is your dream? You are here for a reason. What is it? I got a call from a financial advisor who is a very successful advisor with doctors, and she wanted to enroll in the Cracking the Physician Code course. So I said, I don't quite get it. You're already doing a great job. Why enroll in the course? And she said, I trust that I am going to get one pearl of wisdom that I can monetize and fund my lifetime dream of taking my family to the Dolomites for Christmas. Well, guess what? I got a postcard from her. So, whatever your dreams are, it would be an honor to help make this come true. Here is where you go to learn more about this. I will just copy this link and put it in the chat box. I want to thank you so much for your time and your attention. I am also happy to answer any questions that you might have. I did my best to hit the highlights of the most common questions I get asked. So Barbara asked, how to attract this client. Could you please say more, Barbara? If you would like, I would be happy to let you speak and we can have a little conversation. Oh, how to attract more doctor clients. So how to attract more doctor clients. So the link that I've just shown you is the link to the program that I just shared. So you can go there and learn more about it. And I hope I'm answering the question that you were asking. And if I am not, that is why I logged in. Yes, all right, all righty. Well, let me know what you think about this program. You know, one thing that I'm really committed to doing is being a resource for you. So if you ever are engaged with my content and you think, you know, it would be really great if I could have this. This is how most of my products and services have been developed. So it would be my delight to hear your suggestions and think about how we can make that a reality. But again, you know, doctors need you now. During the pandemic, I'm also a certified life coach. And so I was volunteering for an organization that did complimentary anonymous coaching for burned out physicians. And the stories I heard just broke my heart. And what I often find is that once physicians can figure out how to create this financial future and build a solid financial foundation, that is transformative. Just last night, I was watching a podcast, Diary of a CEO. Kevin O'Reilly was being interviewed, and he spoke about his book about finances and divorce. He said he interviewed some of the top divorce lawyers, and the number one reason for divorce was not infidelity, like people can get over infidelity. It is finances. So once a doctor gets their financial situation really turned around, that makes a huge difference. All right, I am not seeing any other questions. So thank you again. Thank you for your interest in working with doctors. Thank you for spending time with me this morning. And I hope that you have a happy and safe 4th of July. And, you know, here's to you helping more doctors achieve financial independence. So enjoy your day. Thanks again. Bye-bye.